Good afternoon. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and today is Captain Marvel versus Klaw on Expert difficulty, but with using the Bomb Threat modular set instead of the standard one. So it's slightly easier than the standard Expert mode, but more difficult than the standard mode. And with Captain Marvel, we're playing Aggression, and the strategy is to try to blitz the boss down with pure damage before the threat can pile up. And the reason why that's the strategy with Captain Marvel is that Captain Marvel is a very offensive focused hero. She has good damage, enough to get through the higher hit pools of the expert level bosses, but her threat reduction is lacking. She has crisis interdiction and she thwarts for 2, but that's not really enough to deal with the threat that piles up if the boss is allowed to scheme, or if side quests come into play, or things like that. So our strategy is not to deal with that and just to blitz the boss down, and it's possible to do that with the standard modular set as well, but it's a lot more difficult because those enemies are kind of nasty sometimes if you leave them on the table. And they're hard to deal with just like a single basic attack or a single haymaker or something like that. So we downgraded the difficulty a little bit with the Bomb Threat modular set, and I think Expert Bomb Threat is roughly as good as Captain Marvel can do consistently. You can certainly get lucky and get a victory on the standard with the standard modular set on Expert difficulty, but it takes quite a few attempts. So here I'm just getting out Energy Channel, getting charged up, got Spider-Woman, Confuse on the boss, and got Alpha Flight Station out, so I used that to cycle a card here. And I'm just going to go ahead and draw 4 more. Haven't dealt any damage to the boss yet. That Confuse from Spider-Woman was very helpful, so that I could be in alter ego form and draw an additional card and not take an attack this turn. So the encounter card is an armored guard, and we're going to use Strength, I think it was, and Relentless Assault to get out Attack Team. And we're going to Energy Absorption to get Mockingbird out and get a stun. So we're able to control the boss for 2 turns using Spider-Woman and Mockingbird, and that was very important. We got Combat Training out, so Captain Marvel attacks for 3, and Mockingbird pings the tough off the armored guard. And Captain Marvel takes care of the armored guard. So we charge up Energy Channel 1 more time, use Attack Team to deal a little damage, and then we'll just draw. So there's going to be 1 threat as usual, and the stun gets removed, and then the encounter card is a weapons runner which surges into another attack, or an attack by the villain, which is going to be tanked by Spider-Woman. Rip Spider-Woman. So on the hero turn, we'll use Tac Team to deal with the weapons runner. We may try to get the boss into phase 3 here. We're using Photonic Blast. I was just checking to see if I used a lightning resource or not, which I did, so I get to draw a card. Crisis Interdiction will go to charge up the Energy Channel, and that will deal 10 damage. And with Mockingbird's ping, that'll put Klaw into phase 3. And then we'll use Captain Marvel's basic attack to deal with the tough status card on Klaw, and then we'll draw 4, keeping the Photonic Blast in hand. And he's going to get an attack, which will be blocked by Mockingbird. And then the encounter card is a false alarm, so it adds a confuse to Captain Marvel. No big deal. So we're going to try to end the game in 2 turns. So we use Energy and Avengers Mansion to play Photonic Blast. Get 5 damage on the boss and draw a card thanks to Energy being a lightning resource. Use Tac Team to deal 2 damage. And we'll probably basic attack with Captain Marvel and then flip over to Carol Danvers. I forgot to actually exhaust and deal the damage for the basic attack for Captain Marvel, but I remember here in just a second. We use Alpha Flight Station to cycle, get rid of Chase Them Down and draw 2 cards, and we get Hulk, which is a very good draw. Very, very good draw. So I'm just debating how I want to pay for Hulk here. I definitely want to get him out. And if I get more than 2 attacks from him, I'll be ecstatic. So I do. I get a lightning, which means an additional damage. And it should be an additional damage on Hulk as well, but I forgot, but it won't matter. So it's at this point that I realize I forgot the basic attack from Captain Marvel before I flipped over. And so that, all things considered, that was a very strong turn and should be able to finish the boss off next round. Hulk should be at 2 damage instead of 1, but no problem. So 1 more threat on the main quest, and the boss is going to scheme, which moves us into phase 2 of the main quest. And the encounter, or the minion that gets put into play, is an armored guard, and then we've also got an encounter card to deal with, which is retaliate, no problem. So we just have to deal with the armored guard because it does have the guard trait, and then deal 8 damage to Klaw. Can draw a card with Captain or with Carol Danvers, and then cycle with Alpha Flight Station. And I decide I'm not going to cycle the energy card in case I draw energy channel, which I did. That's going to make ending the game a lot easier. I think it was probably possible even without that. So we just charge up energy channel with 4 resources thanks to energy absorption and Haymaker. We use Captain Marvel's basic attack to remove the tough and Hulk's attack to remove the to eliminate the armed guard, and then Hulk attacks and gets a strength discard for an additional 2 damage, which is great. And then Hulk should be at 4 wounds here, or 1 HP, because I forgot to deal 1 to himself with the lightning resource, but no problem, that doesn't affect anything. He did 2 attacks, he received 1 wound from retaliate, and he received 1 wound from himself, putting him at 4. And then the energy channel deals the remaining damage to Klaw. It was charged up with 4 energy resources. I could have charged it up with 1 additional. And I also had an extra photonic blast that I could have played. So more than enough damage to blitz through Klaw here, and the 1 damage from the retaliate doesn't matter on Captain Marvel. So a very quick playthrough of Klaw on expert difficulty with aggression Captain Marvel, and had to downgrade the difficulty slightly to the bomb threat modular set instead of the standard one. A lot of the difficulty of Klaw comes from that standard modular set. I think, in my opinion, it's the most difficult modular set of the 3 standard ones. Now, Doomsday Chair is rated as the most difficult. I can't confirm that or deny it. But I know that the Masters of Evil, is it called, I think, is a very difficult modular set. In any case, aggression Captain Marvel is a lot of fun. You end games very quickly. Her damage is very high. So of the heroes that we've played so far, my opinion is that Iron Man is the strongest. He is weak solo in the early game, but when you get a good draw, he really ramps up to become powerful and can take on the most difficult challenges in true solo, at least with the core set cards. And then Captain Marvel's after that. She's not at Iron Man's level. She's lacking in threat removal. So the reason Iron Man is so good is that he can remove 5 threat per round and then still deal damage. Captain Marvel can't do that. You're sacrificing damage if you thwart, and her built-in threat removal is bad. Just Crisis Interdiction, and that only reaches its full potential if you have Cosmic Flight. But her damage is really, really good. So we have Of the core set champions, we have She-Hulk. I'm not really sure what the design intention of She-Hulk was. I guess just like a fun flip between alter ego and hero a lot, like type of champion who can occasionally deal a lot of damage with ground slam, is okay at defense, a decent attacker. With Spider-Man, the intention was clearly to make a defense-oriented champion who really excels at playing the defender role in multiplayer. Iron Man is like a weak early game, strong late game hero, and he ends up being the strongest one for true solo of the core that we've played so far. We've still got Black Panther to go. And Captain Marvel is a very offense-focused hero that is more oriented toward multiplayer, where she will fill the offense role very, very well. But in true solo, her threat reduction, limited threat reduction, and her limited defense are a problem. Now, really strong defense-oriented heroes in true solo aren't that good, because in order to use their defense, you have to give up thwarting or attacking with them. What you really want from a defense-oriented champion is the ability to stun or confuse the boss, which Spider-Man can do, because that enables your basic attack or your basic action to remain free for other things. But there's no hero that I've played so far that's really good at defending and threat reduction, which are the two twin aspects of defense. Defense alone is insufficient to be a strong defensive champion, in my opinion, and threat reduction alone is insufficient to be a strong defensive champion. You need both. Iron Man had both when paired with the leadership aspect, because the allies provided the defense by chump blocking and or stunning the villain, and Hawkeye provided defense against Ultron with his arrows. But Captain Marvel can become a strong defender with Captain Marvel's helmet, but she doesn't have threat reduction as well, and if you pair her with Justice to give her threat reduction and regular defense as well, I found that even with Justice, she was still struggling with threat removal. The Justice aspect alone does not seem sufficient to make up for a hero's weak threat removal over the course of a long game. Eventually the boss catches you, so you need built-in threat removal, and you need it every round, because the Justice aspect is like a band-aid for lower level challenges, but it's not sufficient to handle the threat removal of the expert level bosses all on its own. In order to handle the threat removal involved with expert level bosses, you need strong threat removal from the hero's core cards. There's really no way around that. And so far, Iron Man is the only hero that we've played that really has that, with his ability to remove at least 5 threat every round with his thwart, the arc reactor, and his Mark V helmet. That is some incredible cost efficiency when you consider that arc reactor costs 2 and can potentially remove 2 threat every round, and Mark V helmet costs 1 and can remove 1 threat every round. Those may be the most efficient threat reduction cards in the game when you count just the core set cards, of course, which is what we're on right now in the progression series, is the core set. So anyway, my thoughts on Captain Marvel, and we'll continue with her against Ultron, and thank you for watching.